Hello, and welcome to this training video, which will help you learn to implement the whole child reading program. After you viewed the video, you have a couple of options to get in touch with me. The first is you can email me your questions, and I do hope you have questions. Or the second way is you can just phone me and we can talk one-on-one. So let's get started with the training. The operative word here is works. It works. And this is not a program just for Down syndrome. It works really well across the board for a lot of disabilities. So keep that in mind as you're working with your class, whether it's autism, PDD, NOS, whatever it is. There are so many crossover learning weaknesses. And in the case of autism and Down syndrome, crossover learning strengths of being very strong visual learners. So I want you to kind of look at this program with a very broad view, okay, of how to use it. All right. All right. For learning delays, as I said, it's effective. All right. There are 4 components, and you've got the box, you've got the program. In the program, there are 4 components. You engage with fun, and that's where the picture books come in. You teach what's necessary, and that's where the series of books that are the high frequency word books come in, because the school is going to require those word lists be learned and mastered. And third, we have to evaluate comprehension, because one thing that I'll probably mention again and again is that kids with Down syndrome in particular are brilliant memorizers of what should go with a picture. They're not reading the sentence, but they know what the sentence should say, so then they're saying it. So that we need to trip them up as far as that goes. We need to evaluate, are they really reading? Are they really comprehending? And then lastly, directions and resources. And in your box, you have tons of resources and directions. So here we go. All right, so the first part of the program, engaging the student. If we can't open the door and go in, we're not going to be able to teach them anything. And so we engage them, and that's where the picture books come in. The 5 on the left are for the emergent level, all 5 of those, and the 2 on the right are for the higher levels. So this is how we engage the student, as well as in your book, Whole Child Reading, I go into detail about how to create materials you need to create yourself, which is personal pages, personal books, personal lotto games, and modified books, modified popular books. So number 1, we engage them. Once we've, and this is some interior pages, some examples. All right, huge print, funny. All right, then the second part is we have to teach the required word lists. So on the right, the IC book, that is the emergent level. Now, technically, it is called the pre-primer level of Dolch words. But since I get students who are in their teens and can't read yet, I don't really want to say they're, I don't want to use the word pre-primer. So I just say emergent. And two of my students were in their 30s and couldn't read and came in. So emergent reader, and in the middle is technically the primer level. And then on the left is the first grade level. All right, so and they're sequential and they're all marked so you know where you are. The labels at the top of each book tell you where you are. All right, interior pictures, because I don't know how many of you have actually already seen the interior pages. All right, large print, double spacing between each word is essential, because we take away one job that the brain just doesn't have to do anymore. You and I, we know how to separate the words. We know where one ends, the next starts. An emergent reader doesn't. So we make it super simple. We double space. All right. And then extra spacing between the lines. And if we're using pictures, which in the very beginning, you'll notice with the spaghetti book, the I Want Pizza book, I keep the text separate because the picture can be so distracting. However, when it comes to boring high frequency words like a, I, into, etc., I need to use pictures, and so I have. But if you'll notice, the text is competitive with the picture, and I encourage you to do that with any materials you create yourself. All right, this is from the second level, the primer level. Now you don't see the cat. What you're looking at is two right-hand pages. All right, you don't see the cat until you read, and then you see the cat. All right, this is from the fourth book in that middle level. So everything gets more complicated, more text on the page. The the type is a little bit smaller. Again, you're not seeing the picture of the monkey. You just read the first right-hand book and page, then you see after the page turn, you can see the monkey. All right, this is a sample from the first grade level. Now, we had to be super smart about this because if we present a first grade level reader with Down syndrome, for example, with a whole page of black type, good luck. That is just automatic resistance. I'm out of here with this. I can't do this. FOF syndrome kicks in, and I call that, I just made it up, fear of failure syndrome. So, but our kids are right on it. If they look at something and think, I can't do this, then you're not going to get cooperation, right? So, what have I done here? I've done what I want you to do. You break up the text, you put in funny pictures or some kind of entertaining pictures, right? And then they look at this and they think, oh, I can do this. All right. Here's another of the first grade books. Not a bad idea is when you get these books, do a walkthrough, do a picture walk through them first so that the learner has lots of opportunity to just, linger over the pictures and ooh and ah, etc. Then we ask them to read. All right. So part 3, how are we going to test comprehension? So every one of these levels has a comprehension evaluation book. Now, really important to remember is I designed these to be used by children who are even completely nonverbal. They do not need verbal ability to take these tests. And you'll understand when you read the instructions, because they're teacher instructions, of course, in the beginning. All right, and then your teaching aid. There's the quick start guide, the whole child reading book, of course, and however many faculty are using the program, I urge you, get copies for all of them. Get them on Amazon. Get copies of Whole Child Reading. Have them read them from start to finish. I had one teacher email me and she said, I read the whole thing in one day. It's fast reading. And then on the right, the educator and parent guide. So let's look inside that educator and parent guide. You have a scaffolding plan, and we start with letter sounds above. All right, we start there. Do you wait until they know all the letter sounds before you start teaching? No, 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 no. We start everything at the beginning. But letter sounds, we just kick it in at the beginning and keep going till they're learned. All right. How to design a teaching session, depending on how much time you have. So, for example, if a teacher has 40 minutes a day allotted for literacy work, essential for the brain that it's in 2 sections, morning, afternoon, if possible, or if that's not possible, 2 different sections in the morning or the afternoon. The reason is the brain. The reason is the brain. Repetition is essential, and there needs to be a break of some kind between those two. Because when we're teaching like this, I'm in beta, you're listening, I'm talking, but then, in order for that to stay with you, you need to go into the alpha brainwave state. And that's where long term storage, memory storage happens. All right. So if you teach it and then they do something else and they're playing ball or they're doing whatever, and then you teach it again, that's primo for the brain. All right. So I would suggest 20 minutes and 20 minutes if you've got, for example, a 40-minute section. All right. Time tracking management. This is really for a reality check. Session 1, session 2, how many minutes, and your notes. And the reason I do this is that so you can see cause and effect. So I don't care if it's 2 minutes, however many minutes it is, record it and record how the progress is coming along. All right. I was giving an all-day workshop in Canada some years ago, and a mom came up to me afterwards and she said, we have 2 sons with Down syndrome, and with the first one, we did exactly what you said, 2 sections a day, did it twice a day, fabulous results. She said, with our second one, oh, we're so busy, we were just doing it once a day. She said, boy, is there a difference in that. Yes, There's a huge difference for the brain. All right. And then lastly, and I think teachers and especially will like this, you have running records for every single book in the whole box. All right. And I've further divided it. So for instance, we're looking at the IC book on the running records for IC. At the top, I put all the high frequency words. At the bottom, I put the content words. So if you're looking to choose the flashcards for whatever story you're working on, there you go. You just consult these lists and you've got it. All right. And of course, you've got these flashcards. All right. That's for the high frequency words. All right. Now you also need the content words or the high interest words, right? So I have emailed those to you. They're in red ink, which is best for the brain, but there is no company that prints the high frequency words in red ink. So that's why you have them in black. But I've made the comparable sizes close enough so that you can just stick those black cards in with your red cards. Once you print this, laminate it, and cut. All right, you'll be set to go. You'll have every word you need. All right. So again, I just mentioned this. You can find the words you need for a specific book by going to the running records. All right. All right. And then you pull from the black cards and you pull from the red cards. All right. Comprehension evaluation. Let's look at that. All right. Like I said, there are instructions for you in the beginning of the book. So you read that. This is actually the second step in comprehension. You'll read about it. But when they get to this point, they silently read the sentence, use an acetate sheet. Somebody is asking for admission. Okay, there we go. You use an acetate sheet over each page, give the child a dry erase marker so you can use it infinitely, an infinite number of times. So you will know they're silently reading this. They're either choosing the correct picture because they can read that or they're not. All right. So then we go to the second level, the primer level. We're getting more complex, right? And at the bottom, even though we're focusing, you'll see in the first grade level, we're focusing on referential comprehension, referring back to the text. Even here at the bottom, we're actually getting into inferential comprehension. Where's the baby who's nice and warm? Whoever just joined, can you mute yourself? Thank you. All right, here we go. All right, and this is the first grade comprehension book. Now, every test corresponds to every story in all of the first grade books. There are 3 first grade books with lots of stories. All right. So every one of those stories is covered here, but in 2 forms. The first form is color coding. Who? The puppy. What? Go for a walk. When? When he listened to a story. All right. So what? And then there's after we are training them with referential comprehension. You can refer back. Oh, the answer is in what I just read. Oh, okay. Let me look for it. All right. But then we give a no help version. All right. We're just training them. And the first step in comprehension is training them in referential comprehension to refer back. Later on, we get into inferential comprehension, which is much more difficult because it's basically about teaching thinking. You have to remember these abstract parts, put them together, and come up with the answer, right? All right. That's what you have in your bundle. Now, we'll talk about the strategies. All right. Like I said, I hope everybody has this book. All right. The method. This is the methodology. We go in through the heart and teach to the brain. And if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. We go in through the heart and teach to the brain. And how do we do that? Well, whoops, wait a minute, let's go back. We do that in through the heart means we use in the beginning, especially, we only put reading materials in front of their eyes that they are interested in, things that rock their socks and float their boats. They have to be engaged with the material or we're not going to get into the brain part. So once we have the door open, then we jolly well better have teaching strategies that work extremely well for the brain. And in this method, I'm using right hemisphere learning techniques, which are based on how the brain really likes to take in information and keep it. All right. So, where does this information come from? It's a synthesis of the best, most effective teaching strategies around the globe that I've been able to find since the 50s. 50s is when it started. And we're going to race through this with Glenn Doman's Institute for the Achievement of Human Potential in 55. All right. He produced the book, How to Teach Your Baby to Read, in 68. And for a long time, that's all that was available. Then we have the University of Washington. Then we have Downs Ed International in the UK. That's 1983. At the same time, here in the US, Robert Doman, Glenn Doman's nephew, split off and founded the NACD, the National Association for Child Development, using the same right hemisphere brain strategies, but with a difference. All right. Then Canada kicks in with the Down Syndrome Research Foundation. No books, but great videos available on YouTube. All right. In 95, finally, the University of Washington produced a book. Then in 201, Downs Ed International produced books. And then in '08, here in Southern California, people got really irritated with having to buy these great books in pounds. And so Downs Ed International became Downs Ed USA, and we can get them in dollars. All right. Where the Heart is in 1989 is where I taught my 4.5-year-old son, Jonathan, to read. We had nothing except Glenn Doman's little book, How to Teach Your Baby to Read. So every single book that he had, I made. I was very lucky. I had a mentor that had studied at Glenn Doman's Institute for 4 years. So he gave me the basics. And then from then, I just took off and explored every possible bit of research and know-how that others were doing. All right. So Jonathan was 4.5. By the time he was about 8, he was a completely independent reader. He'd figured out how to decode, and he did all of that on just letter sounds and one homemade book after another. And of course, each book got more advanced, the vocabulary expanded, the type got smaller, etc. All right, so in 2016, Woodbine House published my third book with them, Whole Child Reading. And then you probably know Woodbine House was caught by COVID and died. They had been our number one resource for special needs books for 37 years, and they just couldn't survive COVID. So, and I was in the position of having to reprint the book. So that's the one that you've got. All right. So we want to build on their learning strengths, typical of, like I said, Down syndrome and autism. That's great. We can really use that. We have to be clear in whatever we put in front of them. Avoid overwhelming them. That means visually, that means lots of white space, not a whole lot of junk on the page. Now, when I'm giving an all-day workshop, I go into detail about everything that I'm just lightly bouncing off of right now. All right. So we build on a high interest base and we use right hemisphere techniques of learning. Okay. Coupled with analytic phonics, if your school is insistent on a form of phonics. I'll go into phonics in a little bit, why analytics, if we need to use phonics, which we don't usually need to use with this system, but we don't use synthetic phonics. If we need phonics, we use analytics. So let's keep going. All right, methodology based, letter sounds from the beginning, initial whole word recognition. If we need it, analytic or implicit phonics, right brain learning techniques, and a base of high interest materials. If you've got this, you've got the whole thing. All right, why is the high interest base so important? Because we teach reading for meaning, period. Period. We teach reading for meaning. If they read for meaning, they read for life. And let me briefly mention here that when I was in kindergarten and first grade, in previous centuries, phonics was in the no-go zone. Absolutely not. Phonics is not helpful. You do whole word reading and letter sounds. All right. And we did all right, right? My generation can read. All right. I say if they read for meaning, they read for life, and I'm going to give you an example. So as I said, Jonathan learned with only he could not, I knew better than to even try any kind of phonics with him because of hearing loss and impatience. I say he was born without the patience gene. It just didn't make it into his body. So, and he did, like I said, he did very, very well. All right. So fast forward, he's about 16. We go to see The Lion King on Broadway, which is hot stuff for our family. All right, intermission comes. I bought him the big expensive program with the tiny type, giving all the background of the artist and the lighting designer and all of that. So intermission comes, the lights go up, and he's just reading. I said, "Hey, you want to come get a drink with everybody?" Nope, 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 nope. So he sat there and read. Okay, show's over. We're driving home, and the rest of the family is talking about how fabulous Scar was. Oh, wasn't he awesome? We didn't know his name. And Jonathan pipes up and says, "Yes, Scar was played by Patrick Page. He also did the role of Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast on Broadway." All right, I rest my case. He thought the only reason I ever taught him to read was so he could read these really cool books about himself, about his drums and his trains and his sister and his family, etc. So if they read for meaning, they read for life. All right, I said we teach reading for meaning. Is there a secondary goal? Yes, there is. All right, we teach reading to teach talking. And I have some really interesting videos to show you. All right. This is little Emily when she first came into my office. All right. Please watch her mouth and her tongue as I show this super short video. She hardly moves anything, and she's basically just doing echolalia. Emily, how was school? She says, Emily, school. All right. So just really observe her closely. So, Emily, what did you do in school today? I'm in school. What did you do in school today? What? Good. Huh? Good. Oh, you did good. All right. Now we're going to go. So, Emily, what did you do in school today? Sorry. Okay. Look is right here. Is me. What is this? See. Good job. Me. Uh-huh. Play. Very good. I play and jump. Good job. Me. What is that? Mom. My. Good job. I'm sorry. For some reason, the video got stuck. So I want you to know that that's 2 years later, and she has had no change in speech therapy. But her devoted grandmother brought her every week to her reading lesson. So what you're seeing is what can happen with, now she does not have apraxia. She has what I call TMT, TMT syndrome, too much trouble. It's just too much trouble. Because with Down syndrome, of course, it's very difficult. You know, the hypotonia affects the mouth, the tongue, everything else, right? So, but just the ability for a child to look at the word, they see it, and they learn how to read it. And that can make a massive difference. I have lots of parents tell me, oh my gosh, he's now putting 4 and 5 words together in a sentence just talking to us, and he never did that before. We could get maybe 2 words strung together. So, but because they have that practice of reading it and they see it, big difference, big difference. All right. All right, phonics. Okay, I call this the phonics fist fight. And, you know, some time ago, I thought surely somebody has written a doctoral dissertation or a master's thesis on the history of phonics versus whole word reading. Well, lo and behold, someone has. And I got a hold of that paper. So this will blow you away. This debate has been going on back and forth for 4 centuries, since the mid 1600s. And what has happened is many studies have been done all through those centuries. Lots of studies done on both sides. All right. They took turns in prominence every 30 to 50 years. Nah, that's not working. Let's go back to phonics. No, that's not working. Let's go back to whole word reading. All right. When like I said a little while ago, when I was in kindergarten, if the pendulum was over here at whole word reading, no phonics. We never went near phonics. All right. And now the pendulum is way over to not only phonics, but synthetic phonics. All right. But just wait another 20 years or so, and it will swing back. All right. It goes back and forth, back and forth. Now, each time phonics returned, it was done differently than previously because it hadn't worked like people wanted it to originally. All right, both sides have really good research to back their view, and you know how research can be skewed. You know the assessments, but both sides have good research. So what do we do? What do we do? We have to consider the learning weaknesses, particularly in Down syndrome, when we choose an approach. What am I talking about? What learning weaknesses? Typically, learners with Down syndrome have difficulty discriminating sounds, poor short-term memory, poor auditory memory, short auditory memory. For example, if I'm holding up the letter W and I'm teaching a child with Down syndrome and I'm saying, this is W. What's that word? This is W. The child is going to say U because I have a short auditory memory. That is the last thing you said was U. And so that letter is U, for example. All right. Fluctuating hearing loss throughout life, deficits in auditory processing, okay, which automatically impacts phonological awareness. All right. So if we are pressured into teaching phonics, what's the best system? Use analytic phonics. What is analytic phonics? It works from the meaningful whole word to the parts of that word. High interest words, high interest. High interest words are learned first, then they're broken into parts. Decoding ability grows with experience. When my son was in 7th grade, somebody asked me, well, what's his reading level? I said, I don't know. So he was crazy about, his dad is an organist, and Jonathan was fascinated by calliopes, which are these little organs that are on the top of paddle wheel boats, right? So I just went to the World Book Encyclopedia and just lifted verbatim some paragraphs about calliopes, put it in a book with pictures of calliopes. He just read the whole thing, no problem, because he had learned to decode. He was so experienced. All right. All right, for instance, so we're still on analytic phonics. So the word banana is, let's say that's a favorite word. The child can read it anywhere. You can break it down. All right. Now, okay, this is an easy word to break down. What about all those impossible English words? My daughter, who is 20 months younger than Jonathan, they're both in their 30s, is an ESL teacher. And as she says, there are more exceptions to the phonics rules in the English language than there are rules. English is an insane language, and I'm so glad I didn't have to learn it as a second language. All right, so it has to be experiential. Experiential. You have to be a really experienced reader, right? And you will be. They will be. All right. So instead, typically used is not only here in the U.S., in Canada, and as of 2008 in the UK. That was voted in over there. All right. What is synthetic phonics? It's the opposite. It works from the meaningless part to the whole. Blends, digraphs, diphthongs learned first. Parts are later assembled into words. It requires working memory and cognitive ability, frequently beyond the grasp of learners with Down syndrome. Now, here's another reason not to use synthetic phonics. Those meaningless parts are of zero interest to a child with Down syndrome. There are probably 3 or 4% of kids with Down syndrome who can learn with synthetic phonics. The rest of them, no. It's incredibly frustrating. So they get to be teenagers and they still can't read because they got discouraged so long ago. Parents got discouraged, teachers got discouraged. So let's not go there. All right. Since there our learners are struggling with these challenges, which I just mentioned, all of these, all right. Our choice is easy. We just need to meet their needs. We meet their needs and we accommodate their learning weaknesses and we target their learning strengths, right? All right, strategies. There are only 4. Fast Flash, sandwich style teaching, and the decoding card, which there's a whole chapter in your book on how to use the decoding card, but we'll talk about it. And then there's a testing strategy. So you have 3 teaching strategies, 1 testing strategy. All right, let's talk about Fast Flash. How fast? At least 1 card per second. Love it if you can get 2 per second. And a couple of things need to happen. Laminate the cards, they'll go faster, right? But you need practice. You just need practice. And I have a little video I'm going to show you that will help you. All right. It's a right hemisphere learning technique. Right hemisphere learning technique. The brain likes to learn with speed. Now we can neurologically see into the brain and test all these things. So the transmission of a piece of information across a neuron has been clocked at 200 miles an hour. And if you've ever had your airbag blow up in your face like I have because I accidentally hit Bambi on a back road, you'll know how fast that is. So it's super fast. So when we're holding up a flashcard going, ball, Jimmy, this is ball. Can you see ball? Do you see that? And Jimmy's going, oh, boring. All right. Versus going bam, 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 bam. The brain is going, whoa. And not only receiving it, but able to retain it with much, much better. I've had parents come in with the child for the first visit, and I'm doing 5 cards, and you'll see why. 5 cards really fast like that. And then I actually tested the child because of the parent, and the child already knew 3 out of the 5 words, and the parents are dropping their jaws. Yes, it really works. All right. It synchronizes with the brain's preferred speed. It works well with students who are strong visual learners, as in Down syndrome and autism. All right, here's an example of me with a student. If I could have cloned this student, oh my goodness. I mean, he just pays total attention, and you have other students who are looking up at the ceiling, etc. All right. So I'm a little slow. I do about 1.5 cards per second because I didn't know I was recording this for posterity. So just keep that in mind as you're watching this. This is a little bit slower than I would like you to do it. All right. Are you ready? Okay. Yeah. Want pizza? No. Yum. Yes. Want pizza? No. Yum. Yes. Want pizza? No. Yum. Yes. Awesome. You watch so well. Thank you. High five. All right. Okay, and you might notice to his left, there is a little red case that has a brown ball in it. That is, that's the bait. So after we do the whole reading lesson, he gets to play with the ball. So that was his favorite thing. All right. Now, this is one of many, many, many 60 something, I think, videos that I have up on YouTube that I did during COVID. I stopped blogging during COVID and started creating these videos. So please look on, and I'll show you the resource at the very end, but you actually have a resource card in your white box, all right, that lets you know how to find me. All right, so this is one of them. Let's talk about some fast flash mistakes that can derail you. You're going to use 5 cards in a group. You're going to flash them from back to front. You're going to grab them at the top center of the card so that you can move them more quickly. You're going to do it 3 times in succession, and you're going to try to do it quickly, 1 or 2 cards per second. Practice makes perfect. Here are some don'ts. Don't move the cards around the side. You'll never move them fast enough. Don't call out the word before it actually lands in your hand. For instance, don't do this. ears, nose, teeth. You understand? All right, and don't slant the cards down or up, making it more difficult for the child to see. And lastly, don't let the child repeat the word. If the child repeats the word, you're going way too slow. And we only want eyes and ears so that the brain can retain it really quickly. Here are some do's. Do laminate the cards. They'll move much faster. Do sit across from the child so you can see the child's eyes and where the attention is. Do hold the cards a little bit above the child's eye level. Neurolinguistic programming loves that position. And what if the child won't look at the cards? Slap them down on the table 3 times in succession. I've never seen that fail with a student that won't look up. So I hope that helps. And at the next slide, your homework slide, I've given you a link. All right. Okay, let's keep going. All right, how many cards in a group? Oh, let me mention as well, let me just emphasize that the child does not say the word, particularly when you're dealing with any child with any disability who has difficulty with language. That just compounds the difficulty. But we don't want any child repeating the word, because we want the senses, the 2 senses of the hearing and the vision engaged, and that's it. No speech involved. So that usually means we have to retrain the learner, because from year 1 they have been trained, say the word that I'm flashing. All right, no, we have to backpedal there. It makes a massive difference. Also, if you're going super fast, they don't have time to repeat it. But there are very, very good reasons for me saying the child remains silent, the child just watches. All right, how many cards in a group? 5. Why? Because typically our kids with disabilities, any disability, developmental disability, typically has 5 comfortable working memory channels. The typical neurotypical population has 7 to 9, but our kids, 5 is safe. That's a safe number for them to hold in their memory as they're watching you flash. Flash the group how many times? 3 times. Why 3? 2 is not enough. 4 is boring. 3 times is just right. All right. Why the speed? If you really want to dive into this, rightbraineducationlibrary.com will go into detail about the work of these educators, Glenn Doman, Robert Doman, Dr. Shichida, and the Higuru method. Both those last 2 started in Japan but are now worldwide. All right. So speed plus size plus frequency equals brain success. All right, strategy number 2. So strategy number 1 was fast flash. Number 2, sandwich style teaching. This also helps the brain. What do I mean by that? The bread before and after the peanut butter and jelly are the flashcards, the 5 flashcards that you've chosen. Now, for a more advanced reader, you can have 2 groups of 5, but do you put 10 cards together? No. 5, you flash them 3 times, pick up the next group, 5, flash them 3 times. All right. So the crucial thing is that those 5 cards are in the book or the page or whatever it is you're reading, the personal page, the personal book, whatever it is. Those words are in that material. We don't teach random words. All right. So that's the sandwich. The bread before is the flashcards. The bread after is the same flashcards. You're repeating. Remember, you're not going to pick a different group after you read the book. All right. So flash, read, flash. That's the sandwich. Okay. We never do unrelated material. Okay. Always related. All right. Why? We teach reading for meaning. We're not teaching random words. We're teaching meaning. We're teaching reading is awesome and fun, and you want to read the rest of your life. All right, putting it all together, this is speed. This is a pediatrician who attended one of my all-day workshops in Northern California. She's a pediatrician at Stanford. This is her daughter with Down syndrome, and she really took off with this. So this is, if you can ever match this speed, God bless you. Here we go.
Slide, climb, swing, on, park. Slide, climb, swing, on, park. Slide, climb, swing, on, park. Okay, Anna, you read.
Now, this is a personal book that she made exactly like I tell you to do it in the book. No pictures.
I'm ready. Okay. I can swing at the park.
Same sentence, and now she gets a picture.
I can fly at the park. I can fly at the park. Good job. Okay, Eo. Slide, climb, swing, on, park. Slide, climb, swing, on, park. Slide, climb, swing, on, park.
All right. Okay. By the way, that child, that was a few years ago. The child is reading at a first grade level, just doing super duper right now. All right, the third strategy is the magic decoding card. And like I said, there's a chapter on how to do this. It's a super simple technique that works wonders for helping the child learn to decode. All right, you all have this, or it's stuck inside of your book. Uh, Amazon, if you order the book from Amazon, of course, this card's not going to be in it. But if I package it, if you order from my site, then yeah, I stick one of these in the exact right point in the book. How to use it. All right. You use the blank side. All right. You cover everything except the first sound. That's not a letter, it's a sound. You cover everything except what's that? Because the word hiding underneath is puppy. So I deliberately did two confusing words. All right. So puh, puh. Oh gosh, I guess that's not pizza. Pull it away. We just do the first couple of sounds or so. That's it. And we pull it away. Now keep in mind, whatever word you're testing like this, or you're expecting them to master, you have been flashing that to them. All right. So those are the steps you use. All right. So let's say what happens if you're reading one of the first grade books. You're reading a whole page of text. All right, let's say the student does really well, then he gets to glasses and up, silence. He has no clue. All right, what's that sound? G, gl, gla. Then you pull it away, and since you've been flashing these, he says, oh, yeah, glasses. I know that word. All right. Now, the amazing thing is that, and I've seen this work really, really well with teenagers who come in who have no clue that they can decode. They just don't know. This helps them understand. It's like the light, you see the light bulb go off. Oh, I can figure this out. I know the letter sounds. I can figure this out. And I've seen these words before, even if briefly, right? So it's just been amazing. It's just been amazing. All right, now here's the teacher using, you can see in her left hand, she's got the card. This is a child who is very used to her teacher using the card. So the teacher, whose name is Lynette, hardly even gets a chance to put the card down before the child realizes, oh, I was just guessing. Oh, I got to really read that word. So you'll see what I mean. So just keep in mind, you're watching a child who is a veteran at having the decoding card used.
No, three. Okay, keep going.
She also has apraxia, which you'll notice. I said,
You're doing awesome. No, let's sound it up. Can. Good job. Help. I. She. No, start it out. Can. Find. In. Tree. In the tree. Good job. Keep going.
okay. Now, please write down your questions if you have questions for me later. As far as apraxia goes, and I don't have time to get into it like I would like to, but about 30 to 40% of our learners with Down syndrome also are on the apraxia spectrum, CAS, childhood apraxia of speech, and they need a much different kind of speech therapy. However, with that child that you just watched who has pretty severe apraxia, still her speech has improved since she's been working with this program for about a year and a half. All right. Errorless testing techniques. Oh yeah, okay. Avoids FOF syndrome, fear of failure syndrome. All right, because now these three steps were defined by Patricia Olwine at the University of Washington decades ago. They still work. It's easy to middle, not so easy, and then most difficult of all, naming. And we will go into that. But that's not sufficient. As I've used it over the years, they can be proficient at step 3, naming a card, and yet they can't read that word. They need to be able to generalize it. They can't read that word if you put it in a sentence somewhere. All right. Step 4, has the student really mastered that word? Can they generalize it? This super simple tool to use for that, for testing that, is personal pages. Fast, easy, effective. Kids love it. You can do it by hand. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. You don't need a printer. You don't need a computer. All right. Wait, let me go back. And there's a whole chapter on that. Okay, how to create personal pages. What you're doing in the personal pages is you're making it high interest. It's something about them, something that they did or they love, but you're using the vocabulary you want to test. So you're putting it in new sentences, new structure of the sentence, etc. So they've never seen this before. All right. They can't go by rote. They can't go by memorization of a sentence. It's brilliant. It works really super, super well. And please read that chapter on personal pages because I want you to keep them in a binder. It's a vocabulary review tool. It's an awesome tool. All right. In the beginning, let's go back to matching, selecting, naming. Give verbal prompts like the first initial sound of the word. Physical prompts, tapping the right answer, encouragement. Yay. All right. For instance, matching. You've been teaching these words. So you hand the child puppy. Where does puppy go? All right. Begin with the field of 2. Then as the learner progresses, you can go to 3, 4, eventually 6 in a field. Don't go higher than that. It gets really confusing visually. All right. Show me pizza. All right. And again, let's say you're doing this with a child and you get silence. Get the magic decoding card out. I tell people, glue it to your non-dominant hand, glue it. Always have that in your non-dominant hand so you can whip it out and just put it immediately down. All right. And then what's this? Naming that. But like I said, that can throw us off because they might be able to name that card, but they can't actually read it. Okay, we're going to skip over this because of time, but this is a video just demonstrating those three techniques.
Are you ready?
All right. So recapping the strategies: fast flash, sandwich style teaching, magic decoding card, errorless testing methods. All right. I spoke in the very beginning about clarity, making things clear for the brain. All right. How do we do that? Simple, simple. But there are rules, okay? Lots of white space on the page. And if you wonder about that, look at the spaghetti book. Lots of white space on the page. Large type. Use a sans serif font. There are probably 100 sans serif fonts. Helvetica, Verdana, Tahoma. They're just a million. All right. And almost everything you see online on the web is using a sans serif font. Why? It's easier to read and they want you to buy their stuff. There you go. All right, double or triple space between each word, extra space between the lines of type. In the beginning, for an emergent reader, no pictures in the same visual field. Turn the page and then you get the picture. Like you saw the doctor teaching her Anna, the little girl, that personal book that she had created, no picture on that first page, huge type, lots of white space. Turn the page. Oh, you get the same sentence and now you get a picture reward. All right, so this is the space, double spacing, etc., etc. How do we go in through the heart? This is the stuff you create. All right, I've given you lots in the box, but there are additions that you can add: personal pages, personal books, lotto games, and modified books. All of this is in detail explained. All right, in detail, nothing left to chance. All right, here's a personal book sample. All right, page 2 and 3, page 4 and 5. All right, and here's the primer level example. Now, when you include the picture on that page turn, you're always going to have to bring the size of the font down. That's okay. They've already read it. Now, these are 6 lotto games that I have created and I have on my site. All right, big animals, little animals, fruit, food, colors, and a very unpopular set with the kids, but very popular with teacher and parents is washing. How to wash your hands, right? Our kids excel with Down syndrome, they excel at not washing their hands. All right, modified book samples. Let's just say, for example, you're 6 years old, you're a girl, you're crazy about the movie Frozen. You look at the book on the left, and I put this in front of you and I say, oh, you're going to learn to read this. I don't think so. All right, the one on the right, on the left, I'm just going to look at the pictures. On the right, see how I have made that this is modified. They're with permanent labels that are not see-through. When you buy your labels online or wherever, make sure you get the kind that you cannot see through because you don't want the original text showing through, right? All right, so you simplify it to the level of the learner. And whereas this is very time consuming to do, for a teacher, it's a dream. For a parent, okay, the kid's going to outgrow it. But for a teacher, you can use this over and over. So if I'm 6 years old, I'm looking at this and you tell me you're going to teach me how to read. Well, I already know Anna. I watch the Disney Channel at home, right? And oh no is an emotionally charged phrase. Easy peasy for me to learn that. So then I've got rides and falls. I've got 2 verbs. All right. It's a psychological thing as well as a learning thing. All right. This is another example of a modified book that I did. I wanted the whole book to be about loves, 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 and then personal pages. All right. Just for fun, I would let the child pick the color of the marker that they wanted. You get the idea from the child. If the child's nonverbal, you just use your imagination of something they're interested in, right? And then you write at their level. Now, look, even though this is handwritten, hand printed, and you got to try to be as clear as you can, look at the space between the words, look at the space between the lines. Now, whenever you create a personal page, there's going to be brand new vocabulary. This student didn't know the word watch or what else is bed. So I made flashcards and sent them home with him. So what I would do is once a week, make a new personal page, send it home. And the parent's assignment is the child needs to read this page to somebody in the family once a day. That's the homework. All right. This is more advanced reader, but still I'm keeping the spaces. All right. You motivate the student and because it's personal, it's about them, and it's a vocabulary review tool. It's terrific. So just keep them. So then you maybe, let's say you flip back 10 pages. Oh, let's read this page. That's a great way of refreshing. All right. All right. Resources. The book, my site, and there's a blog there. Like I said, I stopped when COVID started, but there are lots of articles there. YouTube and Facebook. All right. Down syndrome reading with Natalie Hale is how you'll find me on Facebook. All right. And YouTube, Natalie Hale Down syndrome. Search for that. Once you get here, click on the profile picture, and then you get to the channel and look for the videos. Now, I started Instagram about 8 months ago. So now there are lots of shorts also on my YouTube page. All right. So Instagram. So the handle is Natalie Hale Special Reads. All right. So which materials should you use and when do you move on? When do you introduce new material? Use your educator guide as a jumping off point. Then you'll get to the same place in the end. All right. Your balancing act is boredom if you go too slow, discouragement if you go too fast. So you have to use your teacher's intuition. How fast can I go? We do not use the same materials for forever until the child is bored out of their gourd, right? All right. I keep materials fresh, lots of different things coming in, like for instance, spaghetti, personal page, lotto game, IC, personal book, analytic phonics if you need it, modified book, letter sounds throughout. Everything is taught sandwich style. Everything. Okay, who come first? Then teach. All right. Now that we go in through the heart and teach the brain. All right.